to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Great to have you back. The Fox Robbins Show is all about developing your best business ideas. So we're here to advise, help, encourage, be cheerleaders, answer questions, solve problems, quell revolutions, whatever it takes.
All of the above.
And I'm the co-host, Bill Fox. The other co-host, though, is, and get this guy is inspiring. He's also conspicuous, outrageously conspicuous, and penetrating. Wait a minute, this is a family show.
Hey, I understood some of those words.
And it's Coach Robbins.
Mr. Bill,
Hi,
how
Coach.
are you? Good to see you.
We're going to do, we got a special show because we've got Peter Karlson. He's been very good to us. He keeps us up on technology. We've had him on, previous times on Fox Robbins, and he's always a great guest.
Happy to be here.
Peter.
Great to see you guys.
Peter Karlson.
Mr. Karlson, how are you, sir?
Pleasure as always.
CEO, Peter is CEO of NewEon Corp. And he's gonna, I asked him, to do a show that's up to date, that's, so keeping up with technology. I mean, the idea is, you're starting a business or you have an existing business. It really doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Technology applies either way.
Absolutely.
And the technology that he's talking about applies either way, whether you're starting or you're already running an ongoing business. Either event, as if you don't have enough to do, you need to keep up with technology.
Absolutely. Right.
And we're going to start right away, Pete, with protecting your business.
Right, and this is not the insurance pitch. This is the coming from the technology side.
Yeah.
I think that small business owners, and we've done lots of work with all different sized businesses, but everybody's concerned about security, right? And so so we always tell them, well, our advice is start at the top. Is the policy that you're putting in place as a business owner, what you're telling people to do, is it going to protect your business? And so there's a couple critical ones. So if you're a business that's domiciled in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you need a written information security policy, otherwise known as a WISP. That's the vernacular for it. But that is the rules of the road for how you deal with information security, how you deal with breaches in security if you have one. It also outlines the kind of the people that are supposed to be notified if something happens. So, so as a Massachusetts corporation, you should have a written information security policy. That's kind of one of the basic things. Yeah. And then
no matter what state.
It doesn't matter at what state, but Massachusetts was at the vanguard of the information security kind of policy revolution.
Oh, is
and
that
so
right?
absolutely, yeah. Massachusetts was
20 years, I think.
no, it hasn't been that long yet, but it's definitely been a few years. Massachusetts, CMR 207. It was I think it was about 10 years ago now. Okay. So yeah. And then a lot of other states have adopted it, but it's nice to have kind of the kind of gold standard here. And then if you do business in other states and you have employees in other states, that should cover you.
Yeah.
So it was specifically designed for Massachusetts residents.
Right.
And
well, would that be say if we had people watching this show from any of the 50 states? One thing, those persons could go to a website and
Absolutely.
look at.
Right. The state has a guide on that, so you can Google Massachusetts information security policies. You can there's templates out there to start with. So you always want to, if you want to start with something, you don't need to start with a very expensive attorney doing the drafting first. Start with the template, get your ideas down, and then have your attorney look at it and say, I think you've covered it, or you haven't covered it, or if it's complete enough, and that's really so having counsel review it before obviously you put it in place is important.
Yeah.
So like with any other your HR policies, all the other stuff.
All of them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and the information security is.
I tell people all the time, work it yourself, get your own ideas in, and then take it to your attorney for the blessing and the few changes that are required. But don't just throw it. Don't just spray and pray it.
Right, and I think that the other piece of this this is, the overall policy is the starting point, and then you can create other ones. So certain industries have other policies, but every other business, any business needs an acceptable use policy. So when you have employees that are working with technology, and you give them the real rules of the road, what they can do, what they can't do, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. So if it's okay for them to be, shopping online during work hours, or if it's, you can prohibit certain things, obviously, if you don't want them surfing certain types of sites. And
on your system.
Your system, because, and we're going to get to this later, but that's how bad stuff gets in.
That's how they get in.
If you're on inappropriate sites that in a business you shouldn't be surfing on, that is what they call a vector. It's a kind of a fancy word for a way in, a front door. And so that is one of the things we always tell people, put the acceptable use down in writing. And it's in black and white. Employee has to, both these documents, by the way, you should have the employee read it and sign it.
And sign it, keep a copy.
Yeah, and in fact, I think in the law, Massachusetts law says they have to review it every year. Technically, they're supposed to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're supposed to review it every year. So just because if you change something and just reminds people like, this is important. And it's not only just important just for checking the box for the state, it's important to run the business, right? So, and we're going to talk a little bit about the types of things, the types of information that you're trying to protect, because that's the other piece of, okay, so why are you doing this? Yes, you have to do it as a corporation in Massachusetts, but there's also information that you're trying to essentially put some boundaries around. So things like, if your customer database is something that you hold dear,
and you should,
and most businesses you should. Well, and also, so some companies don't think of that as an asset of their business, but it is. If somebody gets a hold of it, a competitor gets a hold of it, or one of your employees decides to walk out the door and take that customer list with you, that's a risk.
I had that happen. I had an employee leave me, print a customer list, go to my competitor, start making mailings to it. Had to file a lawsuit, which I won. And that was
happens all the time.
The ease of technology, quite frankly. That was 20 years ago.
So not that it has to do with technology specifically, but having non-solicitation, non-competes, those are all policies that you need to have in there.
These policy. Any other examples you got for us on policies? Well, just examples.
Well, I think those things like having policies like the confidentiality and the non-competes and the solicitation. Those are good things to have in, those are legal agreements. But overall, I think the WISP and the acceptable use are the two that you have to have.
That's the law.
Yeah. So, and we just talked about a little bit about customer information. So customer information probably at the top of the list of things you're trying to protect.
You're going to be talking to us now about what do you want to protect, and starting with the customer information.
Absolutely. So the customers, and if there could be sensitive information in there, right? So if your customers are high net worth individuals, if your customers are celebrities, or if they're, and what you want to do is you want to prevent people from getting at that information. So there's policies and procedures that you can put around it, but knowing what you have is important, right? So if your customer, your customer list is important, so therefore, put that on the list of things you want to protect. The employees, so you have an obligation to your employees to keep their data secure as well. So their social security number, their date of birth, because you have to pay them, you have to have, as an employer, you have to have that information
and their bank account number if you direct deposit.
Absolutely, right. And so we typically tell people, the things that you want to make sure you know what it is, but how you're storing it. So. And I'm one of those consumers that goes into a business and they ever ask me to put down something. I said, what is that? Where's that piece of paper going to end up at the end of the day? And if they say, well, it goes into this locked file cabinet, great. Or if it says, no, it's going to sit on my desk for 3 weeks. And so,
thank you.
I'm not going to give you that information. And so, having a policy that says what you do with that information too is say, look, our policy is to shred. The employee intake forms as soon as they're input into the payroll system. That's a good example of how you protect your employee information. Or if your policy says we keep them on a hard copy for 90 days just in case, for whatever reason. and then we shred them.
Right.
Eventually, they're going to end up in a payroll system because not a lot of businesses I know are sitting there writing checks, figuring out taxes.
Right.
They're going to use some sort of payroll system. Right. And I'll tell you, that's probably one of the easiest checks that you'll write is the fees that you pay for payroll, because
it's one of the best checks you write, because that's not your business unless you're in that business, and you don't want to be spending time. Plus, they automatically send all the taxes in, because if you don't pay those, that's going to follow you to your grave.
Right, which ends up being, I think, a civil penalty if you
don't. Severe.
That payroll, guys, is we've had a show about if you can, and you should use an outside service. But I'm telling you, doing payroll is an invitation to trouble.
Right.
Invitation. You've written an invitation, say, here, come and screw up my business. I want it. I want to be in a mess.
Yeah.
Do payroll.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Do what Peter Karlson
says. Give it to the pros.
Get somebody to handle.
And I don't care if you're a two-person business. I mean, literally, it's worth every penny.
You better believe it.
Actually, as we're thinking about it, and you've recommended this many times before, not just payroll, but broad financial support like QuickBooks or others.
Right. Well, that's the next point.
Competitive packages will have that, but QuickBooks. I keep talking about it. It's like a salesman for QuickBooks.
Well, 90.
I know it because I took an 8-week course. Introduction, so I happen to be familiar. But there are other software packages that are very competent.
Yeah.
But that's the point, is that one aspect capability within QuickBooks is to do payroll.
That is right. Yep. Right. So it is built in.
If you so choose.
Right, and I think that the one thing that people criticize, I like the all-in-one idea, and so it's all with one vendor, it's all there. Makes it really easy. It goes in and out, so that you don't have to export the data, to do all that stuff. So I'm a big fan of the kind of buy from one vendor. But there's other competitors out there. So Peachtree, Xero, there's a bunch of them out there. Yeah. But that brings us up to point number 3, which is the financial information. So if you're a closely held corporation, which most small businesses are, so 98% of the business in the United States are small business. The owners don't necessarily, and the owners and the management teams don't necessarily want everybody in the company knowing what they spend money on and how they spend it, because they don't have to. They're accountable to their employees to run the business in a financial way, in a financially responsible way. However, it's the owner's discretion to say, well, I want to buy this piece of equipment versus that one. They don't need to know everything. So it is important to protect your financial information. So using a QuickBooks system is fantastic. Making sure that we're going to get into the hows in a second here, but making sure that it's in there. It's not in a bunch of spreadsheets. It's not in a bunch of because a lot of businesses run a ton of their business outside of QuickBooks, and they run it in spreadsheets and other tools. But that's an invitation to say, well, if somebody's looking around on your network, you're going to find something, or if they're on your computer, or you leave something printed out. Those are kind of things that you make sure you know where the information is input and where it outputs, so people don't leave stuff laying around.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I keep getting emails from Citizens Bank telling me somebody has broken into my account.
Really? Wow.
There's only one problem.
You don't have a Citizens account?
I don't have a Citizens Bank account.
Yeah. I got one from Canada the other day. A financial firm called Edward Jones sent me a note saying, "Hey, your account's all set." It was actually from Edward Jones. Somebody had opened an account with my name and email address.
Yeah, I'm wondering if somebody opened a Citizens account with my name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've definitely seen that, and
I'm not getting the emails that say, my uncle died in Nigeria.
The Nigerian prince,
40 million.
Those are slowing down.
Yeah, I haven't had any.
I've got a couple overseas ones.
I keep hitting return and say, just send me a check or send me cash, whatever you want.
Exactly.
I'll take care of it from there.
Right, no problem. All right, I'll take care of it.
We're still talking with Peter Karlson about protecting your business, understanding what it is you want to protect. And we're continuing on with that, Peter, vital business information.
Right, so obviously your tax ID, things like that, keep those things where not everybody has exposure to them, right? So things of that nature. If you have any online accounts that control things like payroll, your online taxes, those accounts are good gateways to get into your business and essentially redirect funds and other things. So keep that secure. And the other thing, what I always do, and we have a bit of an inventory on the previous page, but understanding what you have, where it is, who's got access to it, and just coming up with a grid. Here's the information. It's just simple,
A little spreadsheet.
Sit around with your team and say, okay, we have this, this, and this. Who's got access to that? Joe, do you need that? You don't need access to payroll. You're in shipping, okay? That's
you don't have access.
You don't need to have access to that. And as a leadership team, you should be able to say that's a pretty straightforward exercise, and nobody's going to feel offended. They're going to say, wow, they're actually I'm
in shipping. If I'm in shipping, I don't really care about anything. I just want to make sure the inventory is coming in and going on the shelf correctly.
And so understanding what you have, where it is, and then what measures you're going to take to protect it, because not everything has to have the same level of security and scrutiny, but it needs to, at least you have it one place, and then review it periodically and see if you've taken on some new information to a new system. There's a new, like you said, okay, I'm going to switch from QuickBooks to whatever, and did we migrate all that data over? Where is it? Did some of it stay over here? Just update it periodically.
Right.
So that's typically what we tell people.
And speaking of protection, developing an inventory record.
Right. So that is that's the grid that I'm referencing. So what it is, where it is, and who's got access to it. And so that's what I call the inventory.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep. And actually, that's the next page too, which is it's the next the where is it, who needs it. Yeah. That's
okay. Yeah. Well, more on inventory records.
So the things that so payroll, that's an important one. The business financials. What about the HR records, right? And so if you've got employees,
issue today.
You're probably doing some sort of review on a periodic basis. You probably have an offer letter for them. You have all those things. Where do those things actually sit?
You may have some correction letters in there where you disciplined them, and you better have that on file.
Absolutely, you have to have it on file, because if you have to take action, and
you better have a record.
You have it all written down.
And if it isn't written, it doesn't exist.
Right, and you don't want everybody in the company knowing about
it's none of their business.
Fred and his problems and everything else, and so not that Fred's a bad guy. He's just had some issues. So yes, so that is important, and so those are the types of things that go in the inventory.
Okay.
So, all right. Okay. So now more about the how. I want to talk about that.
Okay, let's go into protecting your business. How are you going to go about that?
Right. And so number one, hands down, and I've talked to you guys about this in the past, strong, not just passwords, strong passwords.
Strong passwords.
Right. And
uppercase, lowercase, funny little digits, dollar signs.
The more funny, the longer they are, the harder they are to crack.
More cryptic.
And the more depersonalized they are.
Yeah.
So if you've got, if you've got a dog named Fred, so you don't want to make the password Fred, because it's easy to figure out.
You probably don't want to use your own name too.
Your name, your wife's name, your mother's name, whatever it is. Don't use names that are familiar to you, because that's the first thing identity thieves would go after. Is okay. I see Fred's married to Jane, and Jane, her mother's name is Sue.
We got Jane's birth date, so maybe it's Fred and her birth. Who knows? We'll just try all kinds.
Those combinations, it's easy to hack in.
Peter, I'm confused because not what you're saying, excuse me, but I'm thinking that the other day, surfing the internet, there was an article about passwords, and it was saying that, the current favoritism in passwords is, capital M, small I, number 9, small y, capital W, Z, that, and so forth. And we see that, we're seeing that, and it's popular. The article I saw on the internet was saying, don't assume that kind of password is safe anymore.
Well,
those who would hack passwords have
generators.
Started in on those passwords, and with enough runs on the computer, you can pull. So now I'm confused, and I don't want to use Fred.
Well, so random generators are good, right? So, and longer is better, because you're right. Given enough time, you can sick a computer on a problem like that, and it will come up with the right answer.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why they say it's not 100% secure. So if you can do longer random passwords, the other thing is use a password locker, right? So use a password locker that you're keeping these long random passwords in. There's a ton of them out there. LastPass, FirstPass, this pass, that pass. Get one that other people have liked and use. Something that you can use on your phone, you can use on your computer. And the other piece about that is, in any password, if you can turn on what's called multi-factor. So multi-factor means something you know, which is a password, and something you have, right? And something like your phone. Most of us carry a phone 99.9% of the time, even when we're sleeping, we have a phone near us.
Oh yeah.
So
God forbid.
God forbid, right? Exactly.
I mean, I don't even get in the car and I say, oh my God, I don't have my phone.
It's like you left your right arm at home, right?
Right.
And so multi-factor has been very popular. Banks have used it now. So if you set up an online banking account, most of the time you have an option to text you when the code.
Yep. And then you use that code that's
a one-time code
to that one time. Right.
And so that is very difficult to hack, because they have to steal your phone and they have to steal the password that got you in there.
Yep.
And so now for things like email, even pretty, what I would consider not high security sites, they're in fact enforcing multi-factor. So email actually, so just one quick note on email. Email is probably one of the most important pieces of information that you need to protect, your email password.
Right.
Because it's the gateway to unlocking your other accounts.
Right.
So doing the forgot password most of the time ends up with an email to your email account.
Yeah.
And if you have that, you can do forgot passwords. If you get broken into somebody's email account, you can do a forgot password on all those accounts, including your bank account and your credit cards and everything else.
Right.
It's essentially the gateway. So having strong passwords on your email is critical.
Right.
And having multi-factor on there.
Right.
Encryption, I don't want to talk too much about encryption, because it's one of those things where that is very specific to, in a lot of ways, I think encryption is important for mobile devices. So making sure somebody takes your device, as soon as you turn it off, or as soon as you close it, the password should lock. But more importantly, if the hard drive is encrypted, so that if somebody takes it, they can't get into it. Because the hard drive is essentially, it's got a wrapper over the top of it. It's scrambled what's inside of it.
Right.
And so that's what I'm referring to as encryption there. So mobile devices, encryption is a key element.
Right.
Okay.
Especially because they're mobile and you can lose them.
You can lose them, you leave them in airports,
How do you get that? I mean, how do you get encryption?
Well, I know on the Apple it's a security setting. You just click the thing called File Vault. Windows has...
I got it on my phone, yeah.
Yep. BitLocker, and there's a bunch of other, you can have third parties too. So, yep.
Okay.
I know we're going at a rapid pace here, so.
Protecting your business, what is the origin? You've got a list here, origin of the bad stuff that can attack you.
Right, so
Email, you said, is number one.
Email is absolutely number one, right? And so when we talk about, we were joking about the Nigerian princes, but I'll tell you how many really, really good emails come in that are phony. And that's
Citizens Bank one
phishing.
That I keep getting.
Oh,
it's got their logo, it's on there.
Oh yeah.
I've never had an account at Citizens Bank.
No financial institution will ever ask you for a password.
Never.
Nor will they ask you to click on a link that says enter your password, and it goes to a site that doesn't look like the
They would
bank.
never do it if it's legitimate.
Right, and they'll say log into your account to change your password, or log into your account to see
Or send you a text message if you have multi-factor, which I've had. Yeah.
And also looking at the emails, not just from a quality of email, but if it looks unusual, right? So if it's got misspellings, if it's got something, or if the links don't look, first of all, don't click on the links, because that's basically
never click on a link.
And because that's essentially an easy way to say, and then more importantly, more now the surfing the web. There are ways to install stuff when you're on a site that probably you shouldn't be, and there's and a pop-up comes up and says, "Oh, you have a security alert," and you click the link, that instantly could download something. And actually, there was a new one that just came out on the phone just last week around a text message, and it was a way to get your Apple ID. It was specifically for iPhones, and it was a text message saying, "Hey, your Apple ID has expired. Click this link." And that doesn't bring you to the Apple. Apple would never do that.
Bad place.
Right. The other thing is, actually, Bill's got one right here. These external devices, these right thumb drives, those things. If you lend them to somebody has a virus on their computer, you bring it back, you plug it into your computer.
You got their virus.
Right. Exactly. And you don't realize that. Not that you have a virus on your external hard drive.
That's what Peter's talking about. When I got a new laptop, and the salesperson said, do you want a big massive hard drive in the laptop, or would you prefer to keep it on an external piece like that? And I hadn't considered that because I'm a computer dummy, but I said, maybe that might be a good idea. So I get my good stuff on an external device, and the hard drive in the computer is for programming. And stuff like that.
Well, so I will say that these things do fail. So,
well, you didn't need to say that.
Yeah. So backups are important.
We're gonna split your discussion. We're gonna talk about promoting your business, but we've got to end this episode and have a second one if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. Yep.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have episode 1 and 2 with Peter Karlson. We've been talking about protecting your business, and then we're going to go on to episode 2 and talk about promoting.
We're going to have to pay him for a second episode.
We'll put a.
It's in the budget. Don't worry about it.
We'll put a notice on Facebook for send money for Peter.
There you go. Right.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. But come back for episode 2 with Peter Karlson. This is the Fox Robbins Business Show. Should you have any comments or critique or suggestions, whatever it might be, please send them to foxrobbins@gmail.com. Also, past episodes of Fox Robbins are on YouTube. You simply go to YouTube and you write in a single word, one word, Fox Robbins, FOXROBBINS.
Very good.
And click, and there's a library of past episodes, including ones done by Peter Karlson. And so forth. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.